In the previous episode, we saw how Dr. Cosmos Maduka, the great billionaire, grew from childhood into an admirable youth of commendable success. Despite facing many frustrating challenges in life, we observed how he reached a point where he could rent his own house and take care of himself properly. However, despite the progress he had made, he desired something very much. He looked forward to getting married. In this new episode, let's pick up the story from there. As time progressed, Cosmos Maduka deeply desired to get married. He looked forward to finding a good woman who would stand by his side as he built his business empire. It was not long before God helped him meet a sweet lady named Charity. Although she was more educated than he was, she was willing to marry him despite his lack of formal education. She loved Cosmos for who he was and believed in his vision for life. This made her parents and family members very angry. They thought she was insane. They could not understand why she loved him, and they even suspected that he must have bewitched her. At one point, Cosmos was shot 3 times by her uncle just to scare him of her life. But despite all this, she remained firm in her decision to marry Cosmos, and in the year 1978, they got married and began to build a family together. As life progressed, Cosmos began facing certain challenges with his business. At one point, he lost his capital in business and life became extremely difficult. He could not afford to pay for his accommodation or the yearly rent for his business store. It was a frustrating time for him, but he never gave up. He approached the adversity as a refining fire that would make him a stronger man. He continued trusting God for restoration. In time, things began to improve again. He began to receive goods on credit from his suppliers so he could pay them back later after selling. As this went on, he paid all he owed in due time, gaining him more favor with his suppliers that led to more amounts of goods on credit. As life improved for Cosmos, he began teaching his wife the basic principles of financial management. He made her understand the necessity of discipline when it came to handling finances. Initially, it seemed like he was being inconsiderate and too strict, but over time, his wife understood the importance of frugality in building great wealth. Before long, she herself became so skilled at managing money so well. As life went on and things began to be better again, it was time for him to pick up his sets of apprentices who would learn under him to replicate the exact business he was doing for themselves later on. This apprentice would serve him for a minimum of 5 years, after which they would be released to start their own businesses. However, as time went on, he realized that the apprenticeship system would not allow him build a great enterprise because he had to release the boys after a minimum of 5 years. So that meant this system would not favor the growth of his business. So he decided to take a different approach by replacing every apprentice with an employee whenever they graduated. But it wasn't too long before he ran into some big trouble. At one of his branches in the eastern part of the country, his apprentice, who was in charge of the sale point, collected a large sum of money from several business owners and disappeared with it. In total, there were about 56 business owners affected by this fraud. Although Dr. Cosmos was not personally involved in the fraud and was unaware of what was happening, but his business was sued for fraud and he had to repay all the 56 business owners. It was a tough situation. At that point, he decided to take a step that many business owners in his position would have to face one day. He chose to bring systemic order into his business. It was time to incorporate his company and operate in a more formal and professional manner.